The three witches or weird sisters are characters in William Shakespeare's play Macbeth. Their origin lies in Holinshed Chronicles, A History of England, Scotland and Ireland. Other possible sources influencing their creation aside from Shakespeare's own imagination include British folklore, contemporary treatises on witchcraft including King James I and VI's Daemonologie, Scandinavian legends of the Norns, and ancient classical myths concerning the Fates, the Greek myths of the Moirai and the Roman myths of the Parcae. Portions of Thomas Middleton's play The Witch were incorporated into Macbeth around 1618. Shakespeare's witches are prophets who hail the general Macbeth early in the play with predictions of his rise as king. Upon committing regicide and taking the throne of Scotland, Macbeth hears the trio deliver ambiguous prophecies threatening his downfall. The witches' dark and contradictory natures, their filthy trappings and activities, as well as their interaction with the supernatural all set an ominous tone for the play. In the 18th century the witches were portrayed in a variety of ways by artists such as Henry Fuseli. Since then, their role has proven somewhat difficult for many directors to portray, due to the tendency to make their parts exaggerated or overly sensational. Some have adapted the original Macbeth into different cultures, as in Orson Welles' performance making the witches voodoo priestesses. Film adaptations have seen the witches transformed into characters familiar to the modern world, such as hippies on drugs or goth schoolgirls. Their influence reaches the literary realm as well in such works as The Third Witch and the Harry Potter series. Origins. The name Weird Sisters is found in most modern editions of Macbeth. However, the first folio's text reads, "The Weird Sisters, hand in hand, posters of the sea and land." In later scenes in the first folio the witches are called Weird, but never Weird. The modern appellation Weird Sisters derives from Holinshed's original Chronicles. It should be noted however that modern English spelling was only starting to become fixed by Shakespeare's time and also that the word weird had connotations beyond the common modern meaning. Shakespeare's principal source for the three witches is found in the account of King Duncan in Raphael Holinshed's History of Britain, the Chronicles of England, Scotland, and Ireland. In Holinshed, the future King Macbeth of Scotland and his companion Banquo encounter three women in strange and wild apparel, resembling creatures of elder world, who hail the men with glowing prophecies and then vanish immediately out of their sight. Holinshed observes that the common opinion was that these women were either the Weird Sisters, that is the goddesses of destiny, or else some nymphs or fairies endued with knowledge of prophecy by their necromantical science. The concept of the three witches may have been influenced by the Old Norse skaldic poem Dara degree Arlja cubed a degree, in which 12 Valkyries weave and choose who is to be slain at the Battle of Clontarf. Shakespeare's creation of the three witches may also have been influenced by an anti-witchcraft law passed by King James 9 years previously, a law that was to stay untouched for over 130 years, as well as folklore or simply his imagination. His characters' chappy fingers, skinny lips, and beards, for example, are not found in Holinshed. Macbeth's hillock near Brodie, between Foss and Nairn in Scotland, has long been identified as the mythical meeting place of Macbeth and the witches. Traditionally, Foss is believed to have been the home of both Duncan and Macbeth. However, Samuel Coleridge Taylor proposed that the three Weird Sisters should be seen as ambiguous figures, never actually being called witches by themselves or other characters in the play. Moreover, they were depicted as more fair than foul both in Holinshed's account and in that of contemporary playgoer Simon Forman. Dramatic role. The three witches first appear in Act 1.1 where they agree to meet later with Macbeth. In 1.3, they greet Macbeth with a prophecy that he shall be king, and his companion, Banquo, with a prophecy that he shall generate a line of kings. The prophecies have great impact upon Macbeth. As the audience later learns, he is considered usurping the throne of Scotland. The witches next appear in what is generally accepted to be a non-Shakespearean scene, 3.5, where they are reprimanded by Hecate for dealing with Macbeth without her participation. Hecate orders the trio to congregate at a forbidden place where Macbeth will seek their art. In 4.1, the witches gather as Hecate ordered and produce a series of ominous visions for Macbeth that herald his downfall. The meeting ends with a show of Banquo and his royal descendants. The witches then vanish. Analysis: the three witches represent darkness, chaos, and conflict, while their role is as agents and witnesses. Their presence communicates treason and impending doom. During Shakespeare's day, witches were seen as worse than rebels, the most notorious traitor and rebel that can be. They were not only political traitors, but also spiritual traitors as well. Much of the confusion that springs from them comes from their ability to straddle the play's borders between reality and the supernatural. They are so deeply entrenched in both worlds that it is unclear whether they control fate, or whether they are merely its agents. They defy logic, not being subject to the rules of the real world. The witches' lines in the first act, "Fair is foul, and foul is fair," hover through the fog and filthy air, are often said to set the tone for the remainder of the play by establishing a sense of moral confusion. Indeed, the play is filled with situations in which evil is depicted as good, while good is rendered evil. The line double toil and trouble, communicates the witches' intent clearly: they seek only to increase trouble for the mortals around them. Though the witches do not deliberately tell Macbeth to kill King Duncan, they use a subtle form of temptation when they inform Macbeth that he is destined to be king. By placing this thought in his mind, they effectively guide him on the path to his own destruction. This follows the pattern of temptation attributed to the devil in the contemporary imagination. The devil was believed to be a thought in a person's mind, which he or she might either indulge or reject. Macbeth indulges the temptation, while Banquo rejects it. Several non-Shakespearean moments are thought to have been added to Macbeth around 1618 and include all of 3.5 and 4.1.39, Euro 43 and 4.1.125-32, as well as two songs. Performance. In a version of Macbeth by William Davenant, a scene was added in which the witches tell Macduff and his wife of their future, as well as several lines for the two before Macbeth's entrance in Act 4. Most of these lines were taken directly from Thomas Middleton's play The Witch. David Garrick kept these added scenes in his 18th-century version. Horace Walpole created a parody of Macbeth in 1742 entitled The Dear Witches in response to political problems of his time. The witches in his play are played by three everyday women who manipulate political events in England through marriage and patronage, and manipulate elections in order to have Macbeth made Treasurer and Earl of Bath. In the final scene, the witches gather around a cauldron and chant double toil and trouble/parties burn a nonsense bubble. In their concoction they throw such things as judgment of a beardless youth, and liver of a renegade. The entire play is a commentary on the political corruption and insanity surrounding the period. Orson Welles' stage production of Macbeth sets the play in Haiti, and casts the witches as voodoo priestesses. As with earlier versions, the women are bystanders to the murder of Banquo, as well as Lady Macbeth's sleepwalking scene. Their role in each of these scenes suggests they were behind Macbeth's fall in a more direct way than Shakespeare's original portrays. The witches encroach further and further into his domain as the play progresses, appearing in the forest in the first scene and in the castle itself by the end. Directors often have difficulty keeping the witches from being exaggerated and overly sensational. Charles Meyerowitz created A Macbeth in 1969, a streamlined version of the play which requires only 11 actors. The production strongly suggests that Lady Macbeth is in league with the witches. One scene shows her leading the three to a firelight incantation. In Eugen Ionesco's satirical version of the play Macbeth, one of the witches removes a costume to reveal that she is, in fact, Lady Duncan, and wants to be Macbeth's mistress. Once Macbeth is king and they are married, however, she abandons him, revealing that she was not Lady Duncan all along, but a witch. The real Lady Duncan appears and denounces Macbeth as a traitor. The Spanish poet and playwright Leqube den Felipe wrote a version of Shakespeare's play in Spanish which significantly changes the witch's role, especially in the final scene. After Macbeth's death, the three witches reappear in the midst of wind and storm, which they have been associated with throughout the play, to claim his corpse. They carry it to a ravine and shout, "Macbeth! Macbeth! Macbeth! / we have an appointment with you in hell." In the play, They also connect themselves to a painting by Francisco Goya called The Labyrinth, in which three mysterious figures are flying through the air and supporting a more discernible royal female figure. Other representations, in art, drawings contained in Holinshed Chronicles, one of the sources Shakespeare used when creating the characters, portray them as members of the upper class. They are wearing elaborate dresses and hairstyles and appear to be noblewomen as Macbeth and Banquo approach. Shakespeare seems to have diverted quite a bit from this image, making the witches withered, and so wild in their attire, that look not like inhabitants o earth. Each at once her choppy fingers laying upon her skinny lips. You should be women, and yet your beards forbid me to interpret that you are so. The three witches of Macbeth have inspired several painters over the years who have sought to capture the supernatural darkness surrounding Macbeth's encounters with them. For example, by the 18th century, belief in witches had waned in the United Kingdom. Such things were thought to be the simple stories of foreigners, farmers, and superstitious Catholics. However, art depicting supernatural subjects was very popular. John Runciman, as one of the first artists to use Shakespearean characters in his work, created an ink-on-paper drawing entitled The Three Witches in 1767–68. In it, three ancient figures are shown in close consultation, their heads together and their bodies unshorn. Runciman's brother created another drawing of the witches called The Witches Show Macbeth. The apparitions painted circa 1771–1772. Portraying Macbeth's reaction to the power of the witch's conjured vision. Both brothers' work influenced many later artists by removing the characters from the familiar theatrical setting and placing them in the world of the story. Henry Fuseli would later create one of the more famous portrayals of the Three Witches in 1783, entitled The Weird Sisters or The Three Witches. In it, the witches are lined up and dramatically pointing at something all at once, their faces in profile. This painting was parodied by James Gilray in 1791 in Weird Sisters. Ministers of Darkness. Minions of the Moon. Three figures are lined up with their faces in profile in a way similar to Fuseli's painting. However, the three figures are recognizable as Lord Dundas, William Pitt, and Lord Thurlow. The three of them are facing a moon, which contains the profiled faces of George III and Queen Charlotte. The drawing is intended to highlight the insanity of King George and the unusual alliance of the three politicians. Fuseli created two other works depicting the three witches for a Dublin art gallery in 1794. The first, entitled Macbeth, Banquo and the Three Witches, was a frustration for him. His earlier paintings of Shakespearean scenes had been done on horizontal canvases, giving the viewer a picture of the scene that was similar to what would have been seen on stage. Wood Mason requested vertical paintings, shrinking the space Fuseli had to work with. In this particular painting he uses lightning and other dramatic effects to separate Macbeth and Banquo from the witches more clearly and communicate how unnatural their meeting is. Macbeth and Banquo are both visibly terrified, while the witches are confidently perched atop a mound. Silhouettes of the victorious army of Macbeth can be seen celebrating in the background, but lack of space necessitates the removal of the barren, open landscape scene in Fuseli's earlier paintings for the Boydell Shakespeare Gallery of the same scene. Fuseli's other Macbeth Wood Mason painting Macbeth and the Armed Head depicts a later scene in which Macbeth is shown Macduff and warned to be wary of him. Fuseli evidently intended the two paintings to be juxtaposed. He said, "When Macbeth meets with the witches on the heath, it is terrible, because he did not expect the supernatural visitation. But when he goes to the cave to ascertain his fate, it is no longer a subject of terror." Fuseli chose to make Macduff a near likeness of Macbeth himself, and considered the painting one of his most poetic in that sense, asking, "What would be a greater object of terror to you if, some night on going home, you were to find yourself sitting at your own table? Would not this make a powerful impression on your mind?" In music, at least 15 operas have been based on Macbeth, but only one is regularly performed today. This is Macbeth, composed by Giuseppe Verdi to a libretto by Francesco Maria Piave and premiere read in Florence in 1847. In the opera, the Three Witches became a chorus of at least 18 singers, divided into three groups. Each group enters separately at the start of the opera for the scene with Macbeth and Banquo. After the men's departure, they have a chorus of triumph which does not derive from Shakespeare. They reappear in Act 3, when they conjure up the three apparitions and the procession of kings. When Verdi revised the opera for performance in Paris in 1865, he added a ballet to this scene. In it, Hecate, a non-dancing character, mimes instructions to the witches before a final dance and Macbeth's arrival. In film, Orson Welles created a film version of the play in 1948, sometimes called the Arabamensch Macbeth, which altered the witches' roles by having them create a voodoo doll of Macbeth in the first scene. Critics take this as a sign that they control his actions completely throughout the film. Their voices are heard, but their faces are never seen, and they carry forked staves as dark parallels to the Celtic cross. Welles' voiceover in the prologue calls them agents of chaos, priests of hell and magic. At the end of the film, when their work with Macbeth is finished, they cut off the head of his voodoo doll. Throne of Blood, a Japanese version filmed in 1958 by Akira Kurosawa, replaces the three witches with the forest spirit, an old hag who sits at her spinning wheel, symbolically entrapping Macbeth's equivalent, Washizu, in the web of his own ambition. She lives outside the castle of the spider's web, another reference to Macbeth's entanglement in her trap. Roman Polanski's 1971 film version of Macbeth contained many parallels to his personal life in its graphic and violent depictions. His wife Sharon Tate had been murdered 2 years earlier by Charles Manson and 3 women. Many critics saw this as a clear parallel to Macbeth's murders at the urging of the 3 witches within the film. Scotland, Pennsylvania, a 2001 parody directed by Billy Morishette, sets the play in a restaurant in 1970s Pennsylvania. The witches are replaced by 3 hippies who give Joe Macbeth drug-induced suggestions and prophecies throughout the film using a magic 8-ball. After Macbeth has killed his boss, Norm Duncan, one of them suggests, "I've got it. Mac should kill Macduff's entire family." Another hippie responds, "Oh, that'll work. Maybe 1,000 years ago. You can't go around killing everybody." Jeffrey Wright's 2006 Macbeth takes place in the midst of a modern Australian gang and drug culture. The 3 witches are replaced by 3 teenage goth schoolgirls who are knocking down headstones in a graveyard in the opening scene. They whisper their prophecies in Macbeth's ear as they dance in a deserted nightclub joined by his wife, urging him to murder in order to gain power. Vishal Bhardwaj's 2004 film Macbeth takes place in the setting of warring gangs in the Bombay underworld. The 3 witches are replaced by 2 corrupt policemen, who don't just pronounce prophecies but also actively shape events in order to balance forces. In animation, the Disney series Gargoyles depicted the Weird Sisters, named Luna, Phoebe, and Selene, as 3 of the most powerful of Oberon's children, guarding his mystical realm of Avalon from intrusion by other wielders of magic. The names of each relate to the moon. Their subtle interactions with humanity, mandated by Oberon's law of non-interference with humans, most directly affected the female gargoyle Demona and the historic Scottish monarch Macbeth, which in one instance granted the 2 of them a closely linked form of immortality, extending their lifespans into the late 20th century events of the Gargoyle series and beyond. Influence, Come and Go, a short play written in 1965 by Samuel Beckett, recalls the 3 witches of Shakespeare unregistered trademark S. Macbeth. It features only 3 characters, all women, named Flo, Vi, and Rue. The opening line, "Oe when did we 3 last meet?" recalls the Oe when shall we 3 meet again? Of Macbeth, Act 1, Scene 1. The Third Witch, a 2001 novel written by Rebecca Reisert, tells the story of the play through the eyes of a young girl named Gilly, one of the witches. Gilly seeks Macbeth's death out of revenge for killing her father. J.K. Rowling has cited the 3 witches as an influence in her Harry Potter series. In an interview with A Leaky Cauldron and MuggleNet, when asked, "What if Voldemort never heard the prophecy?" she said, "It's the Macbeth idea. I absolutely adore Macbeth. It is possibly my favorite Shakespeare play." And that's the question, isn't it? If Macbeth hadn't met the witches, would he have killed Duncan? Would any of it have happened? Is it fated, or did he make it happen? I believe he made it happen. On her website, she referred to Macbeth again in discussing the prophecy. The prophecy becomes the catalyst for a situation that would never have occurred if it had not been made. More playfully, Rowling also invented a musical band popular in the wizarding world called the Weird Sisters that appears in passing in several books in the series, as well as the film adaptation of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. The third Harry Potter movie's soundtrack featured a song by John Williams called Double Trouble, a reference to the Witch's line, "Double double, toil and trouble." The lyrics of the song were adapted from the Three Witches spell in the play. Some fans have seen the song as an unintentional reference to Lord Voldemort's return in the fourth film. See also, Wide, Moirai, Norns, references. Sources: Bloom, Harold. William Shakespeare's Macbeth. Yale University, Chelsea House, 1987. Burness W., Kleiman. Macbeth. Manchester, Manchester University Press, 2 Reverend ed. edition, 200. ISBN 0-7190-6229-2, Hamlin, Robin. An Irish Shakespeare Gallery. The Burlington Magazine. Vol 120, Issue 905. 515 €, 529. Shakespeare, William. Cross, Wilbur Lucius. Macbeth. Forgotten Books. Simc, Rudolph, translated by Angela Hall. Dictionary of Northern Mythology. D.S. Brewer, ISBN 0859915131. External links: Macbeth, full text online.